going to hand over to Michele now to go through the benefits of the remote sensing and passive seismic.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you hear me loud and clear.
Yep.
Excellent. The setting is a little bit different than what I was expecting to give this presentation. Now, I got to warn you, I am a deep core scientist. So the core reason why I venture into oil and give a hand as a scientific consultant to MEL and geodynamics is because I love the science behind hydrocarbons. And I was astonished at how beautiful this is and how much matches other types of science that we exploited on very different areas, such as, for example, astrophysics, analysis of low noise or say low intensity signals in high noise and the like. So to me, the core question is, okay, with 3D seismic, with very advanced and expensive techniques, we're able to understand a lot about the strata under the soil where we move. But the core question remains, I mean, are these bags filled with hydrocarbons? Is there water in there? Are they empty? And if so, how do we characterize the reservoir itself? So it strikes me as a fact that the employment of these relatively new methods, ranging from passive seismic down to magnetotellurics, geochem, and even more exotic ones based on electric conductivity, or those sky bays, I mean, employing the electromagnetic field in the infrared bands. Well, they do tell a lot about the actual likelihood of finding oil, sometimes irrespective of what the terrain looks like, what the orography, and what the the strata looks like from different analysis. So in a way, they are focusing lenses in a multi-messenger world. And for those of you who are in science and even engineering of signals, you do understand how important it is that we employ different methods, aiming more or less at the same, the same purpose, because then we enhance the likelihood and reduce the error correlated to that. We also reduce the subjectivity of the analysis, and we clear away the fact that we might have preferred one method versus the other for whatever reason. It got nothing to do with the actual technology itself and with the purpose. So in this sense, the fact of introducing a reduction of risk in the exploration, the ability to do that also on the spot and on the way, exploring different assets, is another core terminology. And I have to say, this is also where passive seismic surprised me as a very powerful technique. On top of that, there's other reasons that became very popular these days. I mean, giving local values to an asset, enjoying working with a crew that's largely made of locals, the ability to train on the use of seismometers and technology, which is not immensely difficult, and therefore bringing extra value to the local companies and management, and also in areas where deploying more complex machinery might be risky or more delicate from the political standpoint. Not to mention, again, environmentally, some of these techniques are really non-intrusive and therefore are highly preferable at this time, all considering. Can I get the next slide, please? This is not to say that we intrinsically have to favor these techniques on top of 3D seismic, simply that these are methods that can augment focus and reveal somehow extra information tailored right away on the hydrocarbon content. To give you a feeling of how some of these work, for example, here you got a picture on the right hand side, a very nice one actually. There's a lot of computer graphics and enhancement here on top of very well done science and technology management, right? So these are micro, not so micro seepages on Lake Albert from a well-known article you can freely download on the web. Pictures like this one are not difficult to obtain. Satellite sweeps the surface of the Earth. You can get free data from many providers, NASA, ESA, even other space agencies, even independent providers. And by cross-correlating the infrared spectrum at different wavelengths or bands, you get indicators that are correlated basically with 3 types of surface alterations that point their fingers backwards to the oil contents that create them. It can be a biochemical, geochemical, or botanical origin. Whether, say, they find differences based on the reduction of the oxide contents at the surface, or whether it's the proliferation of carbon elements and deposits of clay minerals somehow that stems from the presence of higher concentration of oil, or, which is even more intuitive perhaps, right, the stress on vegetation, which is not native of a hydrocarbon-rich environment. So once you have 3 effects of this kind, it's very hard not to believe that you must have some hydrocarbons coming to the surface. And if the effect is intense, of course, quite some amount of that. Technical details on how to obtain this satellite imagery and somehow what are the most important estimators in this game. Of course, I mean, one is the elevation, because in the old days we used to take pictures of the anticlinals to understand whether there was any formations indicative of hydrocarbon possible presence. Now we do that with shuttle radar topography, that can reveal whether there's buried or obscure structures that might act as traps. And of course, if you talk about infrared, it comes to the mind right away that temperature is the main indicator. And that again, from infrared bands, we might deduce a sort of vegetation index that relates right away to the botanical stress that I highlighted before. So in front of a picture like the one you see here, and possibly pictures like the passive seismic that you were shown before, if we were to superimpose an analysis coming from satellite, we would have to see whether there's infrared temperature indicators that correlate or not. And that would increase our knowledge on the asset and reduce the risk. Can I get the next slide, please?
We've gone 22 minutes now. We're near the end, Michele. Excellent.
So, of course, the main method that we employ at MEL and where geodynamics is leading is passive seismic. Nothing mysterious. I mean, you can think about geophones or think about triaxial sensors. You deploy them in the net. You see the black spots that are common on the picture, the 3 pictures on the right side. And you analyze the data out coming from long measurements properly calibrated with very many different methods. Here I'm simply using 3 of them, whether we give relevance to the bulk waste filtering through the reservoir, or we do an analysis of the some harmonics of the contents, or we correlate peaks at different frequencies, different bands. The outcome, as you see, is a probability map, and the more different areas match in coloring intensity, the higher the credibility of the microscopic hydrocarbon contents on the vertical. Next slide, please. There's a gazillion of questions I understand that can be asked about the method, and I do understand that, of course, the time is limited. So I simply welcome you to ask whatever question you have in the chat, and we'll try to answer in due time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Oh, thank you very much, Michele, Robin, and Andrew. And yeah, say to the audience, if you want to put in questions in the Q&A and in the chat, I know Robin has to leave on the hour.